Alright, so guys, it's your boy Charlie. Alright, and the 21st March balance updates are out. Okay, so I mean let's take a look at it. Okay, the first one would of course be Captain Marvel. Alright. 4-4 to 4-5. Okay, and most of the time their justifications, whatever they say, tends to be a little bit funny, a little bit awkward, alright, most of the time. However, I think it's spot on right here. I'm not as kissing, but I think it's quite spot on. Okay, at 4-5, it used to be one of the strongest cards. Briefly, there was a very brief period of time when it was really good. Okay, but right now that particular deck has been substantially weaker, and in most cases there are much better 4 drops. Okay, I mean if you have a 4-10 Call Obsidians there, you don't really need to move, it's going to win you the lane, right? So yeah, in fact at 4-5 now, like what I mentioned, given some new cards like Call Obsidian, I am not so sure how a 4-5 Captain Marvel is really going to make an impact. But the only thing that I can see it doing is Cerebro 5. Okay, Cerebro 5, because Cerebro 5 has quite a couple of cards that sort of requires nice landing. What do I mean by nice landing? For example, Silk. You can try to make Silk land in places that in the lanes that you want, but that's only accounting for your place. You do not account for your opponent's play. Alright, so long story short, Silk can land in places that you don't want to. Right, so yeah. And with Captain Marvel, you can actually correct things like that. Alright, and another card that is commonly used in Cerebro 5, Omega Red. Alright, Omega Red has been I like how Omega Red is right now. Okay, but the thing is with Cerebro 5, especially if you have Silk jumping all around, right, you may find it a little bit, it's not you may, you will find it a little bit difficult to ensure that Omega Red's ability goes off. And that is why Captain Marvel is going to be good in that sense. Okay, it can help with Omega Red and Silk, how you can manage these two placements. Alright, so I think it's a good buff for Cerebro 5. But other than that, I'm not so sure how it will impact the larger landscape. But I'm happy to see Cerebro get something, and especially it's Cerebro 5, because most of the time we only see Cerebro 2, Cerebro 3, right? And we've seen a lot of potential for Cerebro 5, but it never really took off, and it's always kind of like in midst of cooking, but it's not really there. So I don't know, maybe Captain Marvel, this change can bring back Cerebro 5, more people will tinker with it. Let's see. Alright, the second one is Apocalypse going from a 6-8 to a 6-6. Okay, to be honest, it's quite a big hit in the sense that, you know, well, when we adjust the power by 1, it's typically quite, it makes a difference, alright? And adjusting by 2, typically you'll see it go crazy. We saw it with Enchantress, alright? But here's the thing, the Apocalypse, alright, a lot of times people let Apocalypse drop into Dracula and solo by itself wins the lane, solo wins the lane, alright? And Apocalypse can go up very high. So most of the time that you don't win that lane just by 2 power, just by 1 power. A lot of times you will simply overpower it. It goes crazy. You have a Sith, you have your Modok, you have your Glaive coming in, you have some random other discard that might hit it again, right? So, and then you drop it one more time into drag. So typically it's overbearing. So I don't really see how this -2 will make a huge difference actually. Right, I don't think it really hurt this card. I mean, it's a step forward. It's a step forward in terms of making this card not so meta dominant, I guess. But overall, I'm not so sure how much it actually hurts this card, right? And yeah, I mean, there will be scenarios where, like, you know, it matters because you didn't get to discard Apocalypse a lot of times. But overall, I'm not so sure. Alright, moving on to Milestone. Milestone goes from 1-1 to 2-1. Definitely is going to be an issue, alright, because Time Stone is Milestone. Milestone is a crazy card when you can play it on 1 and then you draw the 2-1 cost card, and then you will always have something to play. And in fact, if you play milestone on 1, you draw your stones out again, because one cost cards. Stones are also one cost cards. So you can snowball, you can keep going on and on, you have very good tempo, you have very good rhythm. Alright, so making it a 2-1, I can see how it will kill off those dream scenarios. Alright, but of course there's certain times when you play milestone on 2 and you're still good to go. But of course this time round you can only play milestone and that's it. So I think it's a big hit to Thanos. I think it's going to cause a lot of disruptions to how Thanos decks will now operate. If you were to ask me, I would liken this to Forge in Destroy right now. Yeah, that's the comparison I'm going to draw. I think right now it's clumsy. It's like Forge and Destroy right now. It's a bit clumsy. Alright. Okay, and Psylocke's buff 2-2 to 2-1. Honestly, I don't really think it matters a lot, right? Because Psylocke is about drawing that extra energy and ramping it up. Yep, so I don't really think it's a huge impact, but it's going to tilt the scales a little bit. Alright, so it's another hit on Thanos. Fine, I don't have much to say about this. Adam Warlock 5-4 to 5-5. Alright, and specifically they say Cerebro 5. Alright, but here's the thing, you see. If it's about Cerebro 5 and then it's going to be played on turn 5, I really don't know how it is going to matter. Do they want us to play Warlock into Omega Red lane and win that lane or something? I am not so sure. I'm not so sure how they intend this as a change to make Adam Warlock playable. Yeah, and if they're gonna, they say that is to slot Adam Warlock into Cerebro 5. I am not so sure what card to replace. I'm not sure what card do they intend to replace with this. I really don't know. I have no idea where they are going with this. Alright, and I'm going to talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy buff as a collective whole. Alright, so basically from what you can see is in the trigger power is always a +4. Alright, and their base powers are also adjusted accordingly. Raccoon, if you get a hit, is a overall buff, is a 4 to a 5. Star-Lord, if you get a hit, is a 5 to a 6. Groot, if you get it, is a 6 to a 7. Drax, if you get it, is a 8 to a 9. Gamora, if you get it, is a 12 to a 12. There's not much change there. But Gamora has the higher base power. Right, so let me first talk about it. So overall, it's a slight buff, alright, in terms of overall power, and assuming that you do hit. Okay, but what is a little bit worrying is that for Groot and Drax, if you miss, it's you're worse off by 1. Alright. And in terms of Gamora, Gamora staying the same. I don't really have much to say. A lot of people will say that, oh, it's better, right? Because if you're staying the same and you're starting with a higher base, and you were always better off. Well, that is a solid argument mathematically. However, I feel that with Gamora, alright, especially it's a 5 cost, so on turn 5 typically it's quite easy to predict where your opponent is going to play cards. It's not difficult at all at turn 5. Alright, so I don't really think this adjustment matters at all for Gamora. Alright, so overall in terms of Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously there are additional, they receive a power buff across if you do pull off the on review ability. Alright, and of course we have to assume that you do pull it off, because a lot of decks are strong and powerful because of their on review ability, so we can't say that, oh no, it's no good, these buffs are no good because it sacrifices the base. We still need to have some kind of balance here. But what I'm more concerned is that even with all these buffs, take a look at it. It's Rocket Raccoon, assuming that we trigger the buffs, alright, Rocket gains an additional 1, right? It moved from a 4 to a 5. Starlord gains an additional 1, Groot Drax gains an additional 1/1/1. Gamora stays flat. So essentially, you are putting on an extra 4 power, and that's it. 4 power. Alright, so I'm not so sure how this non-guaranteed 4 power can swing the board to the favor of Guardians of the Galaxy. I am not so sure, because 4 power across 4 cards is not exactly game breaking for Guardians of the Galaxy, because they do not have anything to disrupt opponents. They do not have anything to interact with the opponents, to foil the opponent's play. And in terms of overall power, I would say that they are still being power crept on. Alright, Drax is at best a 4/9 right now. Okay, but we have Carl Obsidian. Alright, Groot is a 3/7. Gladiator 3/8 ages out Groot as well. Okay, Starlord is a 2/6, which is good, fine, but you know, I could still play a Maximus 2/7. Right, Rocket is a 1/5, that's good, but you know, some people are playing Matter. So yeah, so overall there's a lot of things that Guardians still cannot keep pace with, especially in terms of power. It is barely keeping pace, and it cannot interact, it cannot disrupt opponents at all, which makes it very difficult for this deck to win in that sense. Alright, even if you get all your own reviews, what if your opponent has, let's say, a Killmonger, boom, Rocket goes down. Alright, then you have lost your power generators while not being able to stop your opponent from doing their thing. Right, so I don't know. I think this is a good, I mean, I'm happy that Guardians got a buff, but the buff, the adjustment that I think would benefit Guardians more would actually be if they did something like Avengers versus X-Men. If you play 3 Guardians, if you play at least 3 Guardians, all of them get a +2. I think this is the kind of buff that will actually move the Guardians in the correct direction, rather than giving them just a power buff here. Because if you miss any of the on reviews, Guardians fall short very quickly, and all these additional buffs won't help Guardians of the Galaxies at all. Alright, so this is my sharing for today's balance update. Alright, I like the Marvel one. I like the Marvel one, although I don't really see it making an impact outside of Cerebro 5. Apocalypse, I think, is a step in the correct direction, but I'm not so sure on the overall impact. I'm not so sure about overall impact. Milestone is gonna be like Forge in Destroy right now. Clumsy, a little bit clumsy. Psylocke, I don't think it makes a big deal, alright, because most of the time people play Psylocke and they ramp it up, and then, you know, it's either a Prof X or a big card, so it's not so much about that 1 power that Psylocke has. Adam Warlock, I have no idea. I have zero idea what they are doing there. Guardians, I think they need something. I think they need something that is not so reliant on their on review buffs. Alright, I like their ability, but they need something else. What I feel for the Guardians of the Galaxy is give them something like the current Avengers versus X-Men. If you have three Guardians +2 power each, or something like that, something along those lines. Guardians are very weak when they miss, because even when they hit, their power is not exactly a lot. They can still be outpaced. Alright, and when they miss, it's basically a goner. Alright, so thank you for tuning in. I hope you guys like this balance patch as much as I do. I'm overall okay with this patch. I think they are pretty good changes. Alright, and in terms of trying to balance the meta and everything, I think overall I would say it's a good step. It's a nice step in the correct direction. Alright, signing off, Charlie.